Every holiday table needs one side dish that looks extra fancy but requires a fraction of the effort. That is this butternut squash recipe. Creamy roasted butternut squash, a maple brown butter glaze, warm spices, and a crispy sage on top. It's amazing. Rich, cozy, and it smells like the holidays, but it's made with all simple ingredients. For the full ingredient list, check the description box below. But enough talking, let's get cooking. So the hardest part about making this dish is cutting down the butternut squash. These are notoriously difficult vegetables to cut because of how dense and hard that they are. Let me show you how I do it. So the first thing I like to do is cut off the bottom. So I'll cut off the bottom end, and please make sure that your knives are sharp. This thing is super hard and dense, and if you don't have a sharp knife, it's gonna be really hard to cut through. And I'll do the same thing for the top. Now here what I like to do is I like to separate like the round part from the long and skinny part. So I'll just find a line someplace in the middle of like the round and the long and skinny, and I'll just cut down through there. So now I have these two sections that I can work with that are much easier. Let's start off with this one. So first we're gonna do is we're gonna lie it flat. That's why it's always better to cut off the bottom and the end, because I can put it either way and it'll sit. And now from here, I'm gonna cut all the way down through and cut the two sides in half. So you can see here that just like a middle of like a pumpkin or like a cantaloupe, we got to scoop out the seeds and the other stuff, connecting the seeds to the flesh. The best tool for that is going to be just a regular spoon. So whenever we're doing this, try not to do things floating in the kitchen. So when you're using a tool on something, floating it in the middle of the air is way more difficult than putting it down on something. So put this down on the cutting board, and then I'm going to use the spoon to scrape along the flesh. And if I need to turn, I'm gonna just keep turning the butternut squash. And then from here, I can scoop it out. And I'll keep scraping until I get to the nice orange flesh and we removed any of the stringy stuff. And we'll do the same thing over on the other side. So now let's work the longer, skinnier end. So here, I could chop down all the way this way, but this is a long way for the knife to travel, so I'd rather do it this way. So I'm gonna find where it sits flat. I'm gonna take my knife, I'm gonna push the tip through, I'm gonna cleaver down, and then I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. So now the butternut squash is cut, but we still have to remove this dense outside peel. Here we're just gonna go with our peeler. And just like we were talking about before, instead of peeling it here, which I can do, but I'm making it really difficult. I'm floating this piece with one hand and I'm using the peeler with the other. Let's put it down and use the peeler to peel away. So I'm gonna put it down on the cutting board and I'm just gonna keep peeling away. If I need to turn it to get the inside here, I can turn it, I can get the inside. And you wanna keep peeling until you get to the nice orange flesh and it's not white anymore. And once we peel one side, we're gonna turn the other way and get the other half. Now we're gonna do the same thing for the rounded end. So again, you can keep it here and peel, or you can even grab your fingers on the inside and use that for just a little bit leverage to hold it. But try to avoid the situation where one, you're holding it, and two, you're peeling towards your hand. This is when we create kitchen accidents because the peeler will slip, it'll cut into your hand. I mean, this is a blade the same way that a knife is. So now that we got the butternut squash sectioned and peeled, let me show you how I slice it. Both sides, no matter if it's the long end or the round end, we're gonna slice in about maybe 1/2 inch pieces. I'd say that's about a 1/2 inch thick. This is gonna be big enough that the squash is gonna cook really quickly, but at the same time hold a little bit of like structural integrity even after it's cooked, because squash gets really mushy. You can see how like hard and dense it is now, but after this cooks, it gets really, really soft. You don't want things to fall apart as you're transferring them over. And I'll do the same thing for the longer end, and I'll try to cut the pieces about the same width of thickness. A lot of times when you're slicing squash, this happens. I actually like this because this allows me to like line up exactly how big the last slice was, and then that one gets knocked off and then the next one sticks on. So I could be kind of measuring as I'm going. And now let's season the butternut squash. The first thing we're gonna do is drizzle on some olive oil. Next up is gonna be some of my base seasoning. This is a blend of garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper. Now, what would a butternut squash be without some cinnamon? So we're gonna put a nice generous dose of cinnamon on top of there. Now for a nice color and this wonderful smoky flavor, we're gonna add some smoked paprika. Smoked paprika is probably like my third favorite spice behind garlic powder and onion powder because it is so useful and goes on so many things. And last but not least is gonna be cinnamon's cousin, nutmeg. What is a holiday or fall recipe without a little nutmeg? And they go so nicely. And I always suggest don't buy a ground nutmeg, ground it yourself, get the microplane, and just a little fresh nutmeg right on the top. And nutmeg is super potent, especially when it's fresh and you're grating it yourself, so just a little bit. Now I'm gonna get in there with my hands and give this a nice mix. And as you keep tossing it around, all of the spices will start to blend and cling to the outside of the butternut squash. And if it looks a little clumpy, that's kind of okay, because the clumps are gonna toast a little bit as this is cooking, and it's gonna give really nice caramelization and that really nice dark roasted flavor. We all associate it with good tasting food. So now I got my extra large baking sheet aligned with aluminum foil and parchment paper. That's gonna help save on cleanup, make sure this doesn't turn into a burnt down mess. And so now I'm gonna start to arrange the slices on the baking tray, and I'm trying to use the extra large one because I don't want to overcrowd this. So for this recipe to really work out, we got to make sure that we don't overcrowd things. What I like to do is I like to alternate the moon shapes and then as many of the round shapes as possible, just to save on space. And you can see how they can be a little bit more compact and they don't crowd each other. There's gonna be more half moons than there's gonna be the crescent ones. And always use a bigger baking tray, or if you don't have a bigger baking sheet, just do it in 2 batches. You wouldn't wanna overcrowd this because then you're gonna miss out on the best part when you get that nice caramelization and crust that develops on the outside of these. So I've got my oven heated up to 425 degrees, but before we throw this sheet tray with the seasoned butternut squash in there, we're just gonna give it a little light spray on top with some avocado oil. This is just gonna help any of the exposed pieces make sure that they're not dry, because here we definitely wanna get caramelization. Remember, when oil's on stuff, it'll tend to brown and not burn. So let's throw them in the oven for about 15 minutes, then we're gonna pull them out, flip them, and then we'll cook them the rest of the way. The next thing we got to get going is our brown butter maple glaze. Let me show you how I do that on the stove. So I'm going to start to heat this sauce pot over a lowish heat. I'm going to add this butter, and I want to melt this butter down. And so I'll keep moving it around the pan. One thing I like to do too is just add just a touch of olive oil to the butter. We do want to create a brown butter, so we do want this butter to burn. I just find that the olive oil just helps the butter melt a little bit, and it also creates a more uniform fat than just the butter alone. So while the butter's melting, if it starts to splatter, I'm gonna keep the heat nice and low because I want it to melt. And now I'm gonna take some of these fresh sage leaves and I'm gonna fry them inside the oil butter mixture. And I'm just picking them off and throwing them right in there. Sage is a wonderful fresh herb, but it doesn't eat really well raw, so you always gotta make sure that you cook it. Not only are we gonna infuse the butter with the sage flavor, but we're also gonna take the leaves and we're gonna use those, the fried ones, up as a little crispy garnish on top of our final dish. So once the leaves start to turn from their bright green into this more pale, they've done their job. And before they burn, we're just gonna use a fork. So we're taking out the leaf and we're gonna lay them just on a paper towel. And I wanna move pretty quick because I want to avoid the sage from burning. And before we add any other ingredients, I'm gonna let this butter brown a little bit so you can see how it's still a little frothy. After it gets a little frothy, it'll start to get a little nutty and brown, and that's when we'll add our next ingredients. Now from here, you can see that the butter's taken on a little bit of a dark nutty color. We could keep going, but that's about it. We don't want it to continue to burn. So now from here, with that same microplane that I used for the nutmeg, I'm gonna shred in some garlic. This is gonna allow the garlic to blend really nicely right into that sauce, so you can taste it, but you won't see it. If it starts to get too hot, I can pull the pan off the heat and I can just keep mixing it over here off the heat. Just the residual heat from the pan will keep it going. Now from here, let's add some of our other ingredients. First, we're gonna add a little balsamic vinegar. Next up is gonna be some Dijon mustard. And now 2 big spoonfuls of some maple syrup. A pinch of salt, and the juice from half a lemon. So now we'll take out our whisk and we'll whisk this all together and make this nice, beautiful, leathery, creamy sauce. Now over this lowish heat, I'm gonna continue to reduce this sauce until it has a nice, thick consistency. This is a little runny right now, but if we just let this sit for another like minute or two, it'll reduce over the low heat and it'll get to that nice, thick consistency that we're looking for. So after about 15 minutes, we're gonna give these a flip. So just one by one, we're gonna take them and we're just gonna flip them over. You can see how like the bottom side is actually like a little bit more brown than the top, because the top is just exposed to air. The bottom is exposed to the sheet pan, and that's what's conducting heat, especially like in a hot oven like that. So we're gonna give these a flip to get maximum caramelization on both sides. And the easiest way to flip them is always over the flat edge. So you go to the round side and flip, go to the round side and flip. And as you're handling these, you can always feel how like they're not fully cooked yet. They're not really mushy. They're still holding their shape pretty well, but they're starting to get a little soft, not as dense as they were when they first went in. So now, before these go back in the oven, we're gonna give them just a light spray of the oil again. So now these are gonna go back in the same oven for about 15 more minutes until they're nice and golden brown and super soft. While the squash is finishing up in the oven, let's cut up some of our garnishes. So I got some parsley. If you're making this recipe around holiday time, cut up a lot of parsley, cut up way more than you need. You can sprinkle a little bit on everything. And we're also going to cut up some of these pecans that we're gonna chop roughly, and then we're gonna toast them. So I don't know how many times I can show this, but the quickest way to trim parsley is to just grab it and just rip off 3 fingers. Recently, somebody commented on one of my social media videos that you could take a fork and you could just use a fork to pull it. Let's see if that works. What a bust. In theory, it sounded like it was gonna work, but nothing works better than these 3 fingers for parsley. So now to these pecans, we're just gonna give a rough chop. So I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm just gonna try to hit every piece. And if I see any big ones, I'll keep aiming for those as I push the pile together. If you wanna save some time, you could buy the pre-cut pecans. Do they even do that? I've never even seen that. Do they pre-cut pecans? Like pecan crumbles? I know they do with the glaze stuff, but. So once you get, again, that rough chop that doesn't have to be super exact, let's take this over to the stove and give this a little toast. I always like to start off nuts in a dry pan that is cold, because sometimes you heat the pan up too much and it gets way too toasted too fast. You could start it in a cold pan and it's totally fine, and then as the pan heats up, it'll start to lightly toast and you're way less likely to burn them. So while the pan is getting hot, I'm constantly trying to move around the nuts so they continue to get exposed to all the heat without burning, because you'll go from toasted to burnt real quick. Once they start to get close to toasted, you can really start to smell the oils in the nuts being released and cooking down the nut. They're really not gonna change color that much as other nuts, but once you start to smell that, it starts to smell like cooked pecans, you can even try one. And once they start to be a little crunchy and a little bit more flavorful than raw, that's about as far as you wanna take it. So after about 30 minutes total, these butternut squash slices are all roasted and good to go. I really like to let these cool down, because as they cool down, the starch on the outside will start to get a little hard, and it'll give them just a little bit more like protection. It'll make them like a little bit more solid as we transfer them. Also too, we're gonna sprinkle some goat cheese on top, and we don't want the goat cheese to completely melt. So we don't want this to be too warm when that cold cheese hits the hot butternut squash. So let's let these sit for like 5-10 minutes, and then we'll transfer them over to our serving platter and we'll garnish this beautiful, beautiful holiday dish. So now that these have had a chance to cool, let's check out one of them. So you can see that it's cool to the touch now. The outside has like a nice like hardness to it, and I know that the inside is gonna be nice and creamy. In fact, let's just do it to this one. So you can see how like I got a little bit of crust on the outside, but the inside is super tender, super creamy. So now let's use our fork to transfer these all over onto our plate. I mean, we could put them lots of different ways. I think the best way is kind of just layer them on there very irregularly. And I like to put a lot of the half moon pieces on the bottom, and then I like to layer the longer, skinnier ones on top. Let's be honest, the longer, skinnier ones, although it's smaller, it's definitely prettier. And now we have a nice contrast of sizes and textures and shapes. So now on top, let's take our brown butter maple glaze. This is really just like burnt butter and those wonderful pantry ingredients, but look at the thickness of it now. See how it coats the spoon? You know that a glaze is good when it like coats the spoon and it clings off and it falls off slowly at the end. So I'll take a couple of spoonfuls of this and we'll drizzle it on top. Drizzle it and then just dot it around the plate a little bit. Now from here, we're gonna add those sage leaves. Like look at the sage leaf now. That's nice and crispy. It's not floppy anymore. So now I'll just layer these around, because once the sage leaves are cooked, they're absolutely delicious. So now we'll sprinkle on some of those toasted pecans. So now let's add some goat cheese. So now with my hands, I'm gonna take the goat cheese, and goat cheese isn't the most like crumbly of cheese, it's a little soft. So I'm gonna make sure that it's nice and broken up before I drop it on top, but I'm just like breaking it up with my hands as I'm crumbling it on top, and I'm making sure that the pieces are small before they hit the plate. And now to bring this wonderful side dish home, we're gonna sprinkle on a little bit of that fresh chopped parsley. It's really gonna give it a nice pop of color that's way brighter than like that dull sage. And now look how amazing that this side dish looks. This looks absolutely fantastic. It smells wonderful. I can't wait to try it. So when you serve this, if you pile it up nice and evenly, you get a little bit of everything in one little scoop. So we'll take our serving fork here, and look how beautiful this absolutely looks. You can see that it was difficult to cut with a knife, but now that it's nice and cooked, like look how smooth that cuts. And let's see if we can get a little bit of everything one bite. So we're gonna put the sage leaf on there. We got some of the goat cheese, a little bit of the toasted pecans. This looks absolutely wonderful. This is gonna be an epic bite. That was so good. It was absolute perfection. The flavors are just going on and on and on. That brown butter maple glaze is so good. I could drink that out of a bottle. The nuttiness that comes from the nuts and the butternut squash, it's like soft, it's savory, it's got some sweet notes to it. This is so good. And if goat cheese isn't really your thing, this is the place to try it because it's so tangy and it brings another element of flavor that's creamy and tangy to match up with the smokiness. There's just so many flavors going on here and every one of them sings so nicely together. The hardest part about making the butternut squash is cutting it. The easiest part is eating it because this is so good. I hope this recipe makes your Thanksgiving table or holiday table, or maybe you're watching this video and it's not holiday time and you just want to make butternut squash. I hope you really enjoy it. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the recipe, how your recipes come out. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, get the notification bell so you find out when I drop new recipe videos. And if you're into a butternut squash, check out my butternut squash soup recipe. That is an awesome version of a butternut squash that's different than this roasted version. I will see you there. Thanks.